As gas prices remain stable here in America, sales of hybrid vehicles have taken a hit. That hasn't stopped Kia from introducing their first ever dedicated hybrid, and this week I'm testing out the all-new 2018 Kia Niro plug-in hybrid. Is it any good in the very competitive hybrid segment? That's what we're here to find out. Now, when you look at the design of the all-new Niro, it looks like a very conventional car, and that was Kia's goal with this all-new dedicated hybrid. It rides on the same platform that I showed you guys as the Hyundai Ioniq up a couple of months ago. Now, for the Niro, Kia decided to go with more of a crossover look. The front end has a lot of the traditional Kia styling elements, the tiger nose grille, these very attractive headlights. Now, my tester being the plug-in hybrid model and an EX Premium comes with full LED headlights with an LED turn signal. The regular Kia Niro, that's the non-plug-in, has just xenon headlights, which is definitely a little bit more of a dated technology. You also have fog lights and LED running lights at the bottom here, although the fog lights are just a halogen, so I'm surprised Kia didn't go with an LED fog light as well to kind of give it more of that premium look. Now, the Niro, what Kia builds it as is kind of like a crossover hybrid, and you really can see it as a crossover design when you look at the side. My tester has these 17-inch wheels, which are more aerodynamic. You can get an 18-inch wheel if you guys go for the regular Niro, which does lower the fuel economy. So there's a reason why Kia went with this smaller wheel design, because it just is better through the air. It's also lighter rolling resistance, and you have less weight, which makes it a little bit more aerodynamic. Now, size-wise, this is a pretty small vehicle. It's probably around the same size as like something like a Subaru Impreza. It has a 106-inch long wheelbase, which is the same as a Civic, and it's about 171 inches long, which is actually about 10 inches shorter than the Toyota Prius Prime, which is kind of this car's main competitor. Now, on the rear here, again, it has a very traditional look, which makes it look much more appealing to somebody who doesn't want a weird-looking vehicle like the Prius, although it does make it look like every other SUV. Kia says the ground clearance is also around 6.3 inches, which is about an inch more than what you get on something like the Prius liftgate. Most of the models will come with these LED combination rear taillights. You can designate this one as the plug-in from the Eco plug-in badge. And then, of course, being a hybrid, the exhausts are kind of hidden in the back, which is fine by me. This is an eco-friendly vehicle. Now, one thing it's not available with is a power tailgate, which kind of surprised me considering that this is supposed to be more like a crossover. But when you look at the cargo space here, the cargo capacity doesn't change because I have the plug-in, even though it has a bigger battery. It's around 19.5 cubic feet of space. If you want to fold down all these seats here, Kia says you're going to get around 55 cubic feet of space, which is pretty good. The floor is a little bit higher here because of the batteries, and then underneath here, there's no spare tire. You're going to be dealing with the fix-a-flat kit. When you first approach the Niro, it's a very conventional looking car, as I said, and the key is also very conventional looking. Here's the key fob that comes with the Niro. It's got intelligent access with push button start. No remote start though on my particular tester. I'm not sure if it's a dealer accessory. Kia does have a much cooler key on the Stinger, but nevertheless, just keep the key fob in your pocket or your purse. To lock the vehicle, just touch the button here. That locks the door for you. It also will fold in the mirrors. It doesn't have a sensor in the back of the handle though. To unlock it, you have to touch the button again, and that will unlock the door for you. Now, looking at the interior of the 2018 Niro, you can see the plug-in version has its own specific interior appointments. The stitching here is blue accented. My tester has kind of like a gray interior with the two-tone with some of the black contrasts with the piano black trim. It's actually a pretty interesting interior. I think it really suits the character of this car. It kind of mimics the blue pieces that you find on the outside, but because this car is designed to be more like a crossover, the step-in height feels a little bit higher than what you might feel when you get into a Prius, but then when you shut the door, it sounds nice and solid, and the impression overall is a nice feeling of quality and simplicity. This interior is very familiar. If you guys don't like the weird interiors you get in a Prius, this is definitely going to feel right at home for you. Now, to start the vehicle up, just put your foot on the brake, push this button here to fire up the engine. Which honestly, there's no starter noise, of course, because this is a hybrid. Instead, it'll just say EV when it's ready to drive, and then that's kind of how you know the vehicle is on. There is no gas engine that starts up at the initial point when you first turn this vehicle on. But you can see, looking at the interior, it's very simple. It's very reminiscent of what I've seen in like a Kia Optima, and it's just, you're gonna get in this and kind of know how to use it. And the materials in here are also decent quality, pretty much class competitive. The dashboard is this soft touch graining material. This right here is hard touch plastic, but it has a really nice grainy material as well. When you look at the door panels, they're also soft touch, just like the dashboard. You have some piano black plastic trim. You have an aluminum door handle here. It's nice and padded where your elbows would rest on this armrest, and there's a big storage cubby here for your cell phone. The windows are one-touch automatic up and down for the front, not for the rear. As I said before, the mirrors are electrically folding. You have a 2-person memory seat with a 10-way power driver seat on the driver's side, which is definitely a nice touch. Now looking at the center stack here, you can see it's a really clean and simple design. I love the, layout here for the dash. You have your audio controls, you have your dual zone climate, you have the 8-inch UVO head unit here with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is really nice. The system has a really great touch response. This is the home screen here. You can see it shows you your navigation, your audio information. PEV, that has to do with the battery information. You can see it shows all your eco driving modes, your energy mode, where your charging stations are, any gas stations, your EV range, which is definitely very useful. And overall, the graphics are pretty nice. I mean, everyone's going to kind of get in this and know how to use it. Kia's UVO is very much one of the best systems in the business for simplicity and ease of use. The navigation function definitely, I think, is ready for an update. I think it looks okay, but I kind of wish that Kia and Hyundai would just update this and give us something a little bit more updated. The graphics are starting to look a little bit old, but the touch response is excellent, so I'm not going to complain about that because I think it's a great touch response. When you put the vehicle into reverse here, you do have just a standard backup camera. It has trajectory, it has parking sensor front and rear, no 360 camera. I wasn't really expecting that at this price point. The gauge cluster here, it's also unique to this vehicle. You have your EV information there to the left that replaces the tachometer. You have a traditional analog speedometer there, and then there's a big 7-inch LCD display in the center there. One thing I really like about this, right now I have it in eco mode, and then when you slap the transmission selector here over to the left, it goes into a sport mode there. You can see it kind of adds this ring here. It changes the way the gauges look in the center. It adds a tachometer as well. I think that's a really cool design feature, and I think it's just really nice that Kia decided to make it a little bit different. This car to me just feels super traditional. The steering wheel also has a nice leather wrapping. It's got this nice contrasting blue stitching. It's not a flat bottom, which I wasn't expecting, but the bolster feels really good. It's nice and thick. So again, this car has some nice touches there. Down here, there's a wireless charging port there. You can see I've got my iPhone 10 hooked up to the charging pad and it's charging it up. There's also a USB, an aux port, 2 12-volt power outlets there. Some good storage down there. This controls the 6-speed dual clutch transmission. It does have a manual mode and a sport mode, which is nice. No paddles on the wheel. I wasn't expecting that. This cycles between full electric mode and hybrid electric vehicle mode. If you guys want to conserve the battery, you can kind of just push this button here. It'll basically tell the car to drive more in battery mode, where it'll use the battery, or switch to EV mode or to hybrid mode, so where it conserves energy in the battery, kind of like in other hybrids. This turns off your parking sensors. Down here, really nice to see that there are heated and cooled seats. Wasn't expecting that in this segment. A heated steering wheel also. Really nice on those chilly mornings. And then you've got some cup holder storage there, which is nice. The armrest here is nice and padded. It doesn't adjust, but it's at a good angle for me. So I think it's really comfortable. In here you have another USB and then a pretty good amount of storage. So Kia really got the storage compartments right in here, and it just feels really nice. The glove compartment also, it's a pretty decent size. It's damped, not lined with felt, but you'll be able to get all your things in there, at least most of your things. And then the seats, they are leather. They're heated and cooled, as I said, and the seats themselves, they're relatively comfortable. The leather feels relatively supple as well. I'm sad to say that this particular model is not available with a sunroof. The regular Niro hybrid is available with just a standard size sunroof, so keep that in mind if you guys want something like a pano sunroof. But overall, the interior in here is really pleasant. It's really nicely appointed. It's really familiar. It's really comfortable. You have a great view out of the road. So again, there's definitely a lot of strong selling points for this interior. I think Kia did a really good job with the Niro. In a family vehicle like this, the back seat is also really important, and you can see the Niro's back seat is pretty large. This is much more than what I've seen in like a Chevrolet Volt, for example. This is where I'd have the seat to drive, but because of the cargo area, or because of the size, the shape of this car, there's really easy to get in and out of, and then when you shut the door, It sounds just like the front seat's nice and solid. The materials back here are hard touch plastic, so they didn't carry that through on the rear door panels, but it's nice and soft touch right here with more of that piano black plastic trim. I'm happy to say that there are 2 map pockets here. There's some rear seat vents, and then Kia gives you a nice big standard household power outlet there. But no heated rear seats, which kind of surprised me. Again, you can't really have everything, but there's a nice little armrest here that folds down, and 3 people actually could sit across here because the floor is almost flat for that center passenger. So overall, the rear seat, plenty of headroom, plenty of legroom, and it's a nice place to spend time. Now, because this is the plug-in model, the car comes with its own level 1 charger. Now, if you guys want a level 2 charger, you have to have that installed professionally, but this is the charger it comes with. This is the one that plugs into the 120 volt in your house. So basically, take it out. If you guys have a garage, that makes it more convenient. The plug is located up here at the front of the vehicle, and it works like everything else. There's either only a level 1 or level 2. There's no level 3 attachment, but basically just plug it in. And Kia says it takes about less than 3 hours if you guys have the level 2 charger, which is the one that your clothes dryer uses. But with the level 1, it's going to take double that time, roughly around 6 hours to charge, and it gives you 26 miles of range. So under the hood of the Niro, like any other hybrid buyer, you're probably wondering what's going on under here. Now, just like the regular Niro, this has a combination of powertrains. You're first going to be looking at the 1.6 liter gasoline 4-cylinder engine. That makes 104 horsepower on its own. Now, when you pair that with the electric motor, this has a more powerful electric motor because it's the plug-in. It's rated at about 60 horsepower on its own. Now, when you combine all the numbers together, it's not like a complete add-in. You're going to have some losses. It's about 139 horsepower and about 195 foot-pounds of torque. Now, if you're keeping score, that's about 20 more than what you get in the Toyota Prius Prime, which is kind of this car's main competitor. You could also compare it to a C-Max, although Ford hasn't really been selling very many of those. Now, fuel economy, that's really what's important. Kia says it's rated at 110 mpge city, about 99 on the highway, or 105 mpge in the combined. That number doesn't really mean much to you because that is how this car consumes electricity. The higher the number, the better. You guys are probably more interested in the gas mileage figures for the gas engine. That's rated at 48 in the city, 44 on the highway, which is about 6 miles per gallon less than what you get in the Prius Prime. Kia says this will go about 26 miles on electric power alone. Or you can also add in the gas engine. Total range is about 560 miles, which is pretty good. So there's a reason why, a lot of people are really interested in this car. The plug-in version is also heavier. It's about 250 pounds heavier than the standard version. This weighs around 3,500 pounds. It only comes with front-wheel drive. All-wheel drive isn't available, and all that power goes out through a 6-speed dual-clutch transmission, not a CVT like all the other competitors. So let's get on the road and see how it all performs. So the first full dedicated hybrid vehicle from Kia is a pretty big deal. Now, unfortunately for Kia, I feel like hybrids don't quite have the luster they had maybe 5-10 years ago. Ever since Tesla has been storming the market with their full premium electric cars, really all the greenies just care about having a car that's all electric. So really all electric cars are kind of the kind of vehicle that all the environmentalists are reaching for. And hybrids have been kind of left in the dust a little bit. I mean, the Prius sales have really been tanking over the years, but Kia has been enjoying some relatively strong sales with the Niro, especially the regular Niro. Now that the plug-in version is now coming to market, this is probably the one that, we'll be able to put Kia on the green vehicle radar system. And honestly, I actually drove the regular Niro last year. I didn't actually get a chance to film a review due to issues I had with the actual video, but I'm going to talk about the regular Niro and mostly this plug-in hybrid because this is the one that I'm driving now. And my first impressions of the Kia Niro PHEV are really positive. I mean, this car, when you put your foot down, it's not fast, of course, hybrids aren't fast, but the driving experience of the Niro is just so ordinary, or not ordinary, just so normal. I kind of get in this and I feel like I'm driving a subcompact SUV, which is definitely what Kia was going for. This is the kind of car that you can get in and just know how to drive it. There's nothing weird about it. And when you combine it with the stronger electric motor that this particular one has, and it has almost 140 horsepower, 195 foot-pounds of torque, it's a relatively peppy car. Now, one thing it still has that I just despise about hybrids, and I suspect a lot of consumers also despise, is just the noise. The 1.6 liter gas engine is just a thrashy sounding engine. It's basically the same engine that you'll find in like a Hyundai Accent. And I just kind of wish that Kia went with the 2 liter, the smoother 2 liter engine that's in the new Elantra and the new Veloster. It's just this motor, combine it with the 6-speed dual clutch, which I'm glad it's a dual clutch because it has traditional shifts, but it's just so thrashy sounding that I found myself trying to drive this thing as economically as possible so it would just stay in electric only mode, because when you do that, it'll cruise along in electric power only, or electric power mode alone, so you don't hear any of that noise. So like right now, the gas engine has totally shut off, and if you put it in EV mode and just kind of drive it, very economically, it's like a freaking go-kart. Listen to that. Nothing. It doesn't have that thrashy gas engine that I absolutely hate. But, I mean, this is how most people are going to drive this, and I have to say, when it's in just electric only mode, it's an interesting vehicle. But I'm going to switch it over to sport mode, and we're going to floor it from this stoplight, or from this stop sign here, and see how it feels. Okay, surprise, this thing actually has enough power to trip the front tires. Again, you hear and feel traditional gear shifts, and the engine gets pretty noisy. It looks like it has a pretty low redline. I never see it go past 5,500 RPM. But honestly, when you're driving the Niro in sport mode here, the ride is surprisingly good. It has a fully independent suspension. It's got electric power steering. So the steering itself is actually really good for a hybrid. It has relatively good feedback for an electric power steering assist. It's relatively quick as well. And really, the car's chassis just feels playful. It's a really fun to drive hybrid vehicle, which isn't really the case, although the new Prius is relatively fun to drive as well because it's on that new TNGA platform. But this is kind of just right up there with the class leaders in terms of driving dynamics, but it just doesn't have that weird looks that you have to deal with when you drive a Prius. But I mean, overall, chuck this thing around some back roads here, leave it in sport mode, and this thing is relatively fun to drive. It's a really great daily driver, a really great highway companion and city cruiser, although you're just gonna have to deal with the fact that it doesn't have much power. I mean, 0 to 60 for this car feels like it takes like almost 10 seconds to get to 60. It feels slow, but when you guys are just kind of cruising or just toddling around town, it has really good initial acceleration because the electric motor offers all that torque off the line. So that's really what you're looking for with a hybrid vehicle, and that's kind of what the Niro delivers. It has instantaneous thrust, although when you are trying to pass someone on the highway, that's when you're going to notice it doesn't have as much horsepower and it feels sluggish. But visibility in here is excellent. No weird aerodynamic shapes in here, so it just feels like I'm driving a regular small SUV. Great visibility out of the front, out of the back. The sides are great, and this thing has some great driver assistance as well. Now, you heard earlier it's got that stupid lane departure alert, so when I cross over the lane here, it'll beep annoyingly. But it also has active lane keep assist, which does a pretty good job of keeping you in the lane. This car also has automatic emergency braking. It has adaptive cruise control, although it does not have full stop and go capabilities. It has blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alerts. So I mean, all the safety tech you expect is in this vehicle, which is good. I didn't expect your hybrid to do that, did you? I disabled the traction control there, and again, because of that dual clutch, it will really hop those front wheels because it has almost 200 pound-feet of torque. But I have to say, this is a relatively pleasant driving car, and I can see why it's been doing really well for Kia in terms of sales, because it just feels like a normal car. But how does this compare to something like the Prius Prime? Now, it's been a while since I drove the Prius Prime, but the new Prius definitely has a great driving dynamic as well. That car just feels more like a hybrid. It just feels very different from a regular car, especially compared to this with its traditional gear shifts. The 6-speed's a great transmission in this car. I just don't know if it's the most efficient choice, because there's a reason why the fuel economy is lower in this car versus the Prius. It's because of that dual clutch. It's because it doesn't have that slippery aerodynamic shape as the Prius. Now, with all that said, gas mileage is very important in a vehicle like this, and I have been averaging in my week's worth of driving about 38 miles per gallon. Now, that is mostly with the fact that I've been driving this car aggressively. I really like the fact that this thing tells you your driving style. It says economically I drive about 36% of the time, normal and aggressive about 32% of the time, which sounds about right. So I discovered the way I drive in this car because the car tells me based on my throttle input, based on my braking input and whatnot. So it's an interesting proposition. Now, when I was driving this car a little bit more economically, it was getting around 44 miles per gallon, which again is pretty good compared to the segment. And I think that, Prius drivers are definitely going to be getting better gas mileage, although it's not really that much better in the real world. I mean, this thing gave me about a 550-mile combined range, and the electric-only range is about 26 miles, which is pretty good for a plug-in vehicle like this. So it really is just going to depend on your driving style, but overall, I'm pretty pleasantly surprised with the way the Kia Niro drives. So when Kia first introduced the Niro early last year, they actually had a huge sales success on their hands. In the calendar year 2017, Kia sold nearly 30,000 Niros, and that wasn't even a full 12 months of selling this car. So it's been a huge hit for Kia, and honestly, I suspect the reason why is because of the shape. This has a very traditional crossover look, and if you guys look at the design of the current Prius, you either love it or you hate it. It's a very polarizing design. Now, after spending a week with the all-new Kia Niro plug-in hybrid, I'm happy to report that it's actually a really easy car to live with. Size-wise, it's the perfect size vehicle, and it kind of gives you that conventional look with a practical interior, a really spacious interior, with a really familiar layout. I think that's really what's going to be selling, or a selling point for a lot of buyers who are looking for, you know, a daily driver like this that gets great gas mileage. With all that said, what's it going to cost to put a Niro plug-in version in your driveway? Now, the standard Niro is relatively inexpensive. That starts at $23,500. The plug-in's about $4,500 more, which gives you a bigger battery, a little bit more equipment, a little bit better gas mileage if you guys don't go for the, you know, the bigger 18-inch wheels on the standard model. Now, my tester being the EX Premium starts at around $34,500. There's no options really, it just comes fully loaded. With Destination, this is a little over $35,000, which makes it a little bit more expensive than a Prius Prime, which starts at like between $500 to $1,000 less fully loaded or at a base end, which makes the Niro again a little bit more expensive. But I will argue that some of you may prefer its more traditional looks, its more traditional driving dynamics with its, you know, dual clutch transmission, with how much more feel it gives you. It just feels like a more traditional car, and I think that's the reason why it's been doing really well. Now, if you guys look at the sales numbers of the Prius competitor, this has actually been outselling the Prius C, the Prius V, and the Prius Prime. So Kia definitely has something on their hands here that's going to be resonating well with buyers. And if you guys are in the market for a hybrid vehicle, this is certainly worth a look if you want something that looks like a regular car. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2018 Kia Niro plug-in hybrid. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you all in the next video.